Welcome to the channel and welcome back to another video. On this video, I want to give you guys 20 things you need to be thinking about and looking for when buying a house. These 20 things are relevant regardless of the year it is, 2022, 2023, 2024, and beyond. These are 20 things you need to be focused on and thinking about and looking for when buying a house. My name is Eric and I write a blog over at smartmoneybro.com. And on that blog, I write about issues regarding money and real estate that helps ordinary people be extraordinary with their money. I also work one-on-one with folks, helping them in those particular areas. Side gigs, small businesses, managing your money, creating a budget, setting goals, buying and investing in rental property, managing your rental property. You name it, we talk about it. I also offer a free 15-minute phone conversation. If you're interested in talking, contact me at the email address in the notes below. With that said, let's jump into the 20 things that you need to be looking for when buying a house. Number one, the very first thing you got to think about is you got to answer these two questions. What do you want and why are you buying a home? The reason you want to answer these two questions is because they're going to drive the answers to a lot of the other decisions that you have to make down the road when it comes to buying a house. So when you ask yourself, what do you want? Meaning, do you want a 3-bedroom home? Do you want a 4-bedroom home? Do you want to have 1 bath or 2 baths? What type of house do you want? And what type of house do you plan to purchase? When you're talking about why, you got to answer the why question. Are you looking for a home for a better school system for your children? Are you looking for a home for more room and more space? Perhaps you want a better area or location, new city. Whatever the reason, you have to answer the question, why? What is the reason you want to buy a new home? And what are you looking for? Number two, the second thing you got to think about is, what is the larger market doing in terms of the housing market? What's taking place in the market? Is the market up? Is the market down? Is the market a seller's market? Is it a buyer's market? What are the interest rates that are currently being offered in the market? What is the inventory like in the area where you want to buy a home? How many days on the market are houses sitting? Are they sitting for 6 months? Are they sitting for 2 days? You want to get a feel for the market, and if you do a little bit of research, you can get that information with a couple of keystrokes on the computer or on your cell phone. Quick information, but you want to sort of start to do your research with knowing what the market's happening. Is it a bubble? Is the demand high and the inventory low, like a bubble situation, and low interest rates like we had at the end of 2020 and into 2021? Which basically was a seller's market? Or are things calmed down? Are they cooler? You just got to know that information. The more information that you can have about the home buying purchase and what's happening right now, the better off you'll be when it comes to buying a home, because you're going to be able to make a more informed decision about your purchase. If you're getting anything out of this video, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, and please smash the like button. Number three is location, location, location. And I know it's cliche-ish, but it's very, very important. No matter if it's a cliche or not, you have to understand the location that you plan to buy a house in. Is that location growing? What is the school district like in that area? You've got to know a lot about the location that you're going to be purchasing a home in, and a lot of that is going to be up to you and your research. Trust me, when people say location is the most important thing when it comes to buying a house, they're right. Listen to them. It matters more than you can imagine, the location. Because ultimately, you're going to sell your house, whether you die, whether you move out, whether you sell it to somebody, or whether you want to look for another location, a different home. Ultimately, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, your home is going to be sold. And if you buy in the right location, you're going to sell your property for more of a premium price. So location matters more than you can imagine. Number four, you want to know what's taking place around the area that you're looking to buy. If there's a specific city or county or area in a city that you're looking at, you've got to know what is taking place with the planning and zoning around that area. In other words, is there a strip mall coming? Are they tearing down a strip mall? Is there new businesses being brought in? You want to know that information up front so you can, again, make a more informed decision. The way you do that, every city, county, location, jurisdiction, they all have websites. You can do the research and see what's coming and possibly what's leaving the area. But that's just a matter of you going online and taking a look at the particular city or place you're looking to move to. Know the planning and zoning that's going on in the area. It's going to help you make a better decision. Number 5 is know the comparables in the area. Once you figure out exactly what you want and the location you want to be in, then you have to begin to look at what other properties in the area are selling for. What is the price point for the type of home you want in the area where you want to purchase? Get a feel for that. Of course, you're going to actually hook up with a realtor. We'll talk about that later. But in the beginning, when you're doing your due diligence and your research, figure out if you can find, nowadays, some of that stuff is online for you to take a look at. There's websites that will give you an idea of what other homes are currently selling for in the area. Number 6 is when you start looking at what you're bringing to the table. Number 6 is you need to assess your credit. Are you in the 500s, the 600s, the 700s, 800? Who knows? You should know that information. You can actually begin to look at your credit. There's ways to do that online as well. Make sure you get an understanding of what your credit score is when you're going into this process. Unless, of course, you're buying the property cash or mostly cash. For most of us, if that's not what you're doing and you're going to get a loan on the property, you got to get an idea of where your credit is. Whatever bank or loan institution you go through, they're going to pre-qualify you for a certain amount of money, partially based on your credit. There's other factors as well, but that is going to help make a determination on what you'll be pre-qualified for in terms of the loan amount that you can possibly get. And that leads to number 7. Number 7 is you have to figure out what you can actually afford. That means, can you actually afford a $2,000 a month payment? Can you actually only afford a $1,200 a month payment or more? You have to take a good look at your situation and your money and make that determination. Yes, there's debt to income ratios and so forth that your bank or your lending institution is going to help you figure out. But you need to see what actually can you afford in terms of a payment, regardless of what they want to figure out, or what they pre-qualify you for based on your debt to income ratio in their eyes. You have to begin to do your due diligence on your own budget and figure out what you can actually afford. And that also goes with figuring out exactly how much you're going to put down on the property. You've got to make that decision. Remember, the more you put down, the more equity you'll have in the home from the beginning. So if you put down $20,000 cash on a $200,000 home, that means you're going to have about $20,000 equity in the home. Keep in mind, if you put down $40,000 on that same $200,000 home, now you're going to have $40,000 equity into the home, and you'll owe less, your payment will be less, etc. The point I want to make on that is know exactly what you can afford based on what you decide as your down payment and based on your own budget. Now that one leads me to number 8. Number 8 is be sure you don't overspend. You don't want to get to a point where you stretch yourself out too thin and you're unable to make the payment. That's really important. If you know you can afford $1,500 a month in terms of a payment with your taxes and insurance escrowed into that payment, stick with that number. Don't be led to believe that you can definitely stretch things out. Now, I'm not saying don't go for it and stretch if you can in terms of a payment, which means you're going to get a little bit higher priced home, but just be careful about that. Make sure you don't get to the point where you bite off more than you can chew. Now, number 9 is stay firm on your budget. You may run into a realtor or a broker or somebody that's helping you out that says, hey, look, we know that you're stretching to afford this $250,000 home, but we've got a $325,000 home that we want to show you. Be extra careful to stay as firm as possible on what you can afford. I always tell folks to think 15-year mortgage if you can. I actually have a video about that. Check that out when you get a moment. That video shows that a 15-year mortgage is really a good thing. You're going to be bombarded with 30-year mortgage, 30-year mortgage, 30-year mortgage because it makes the payment much lower and it means that you can get into a larger priced home. But again, if you can, consider a 15-year mortgage, because in 15 years, you'll thank yourself for doing it. But that's really your personal decision when it comes to a 15-year mortgage versus a 30-year mortgage. Just be careful to stay firm on what you want. Number 10 is don't spend all of your money on your down payment. You need to have some type of emergency money set to the side before you go make that purchase. And the reason is because things will happen. You'll buy a home, the HVAC will go out the following year, the roof will need to be replaced, or something will happen. And now, if you don't have some emergency money set aside, you're going to find yourself with this really nice home that you just bought, but A, you can't fix anything in it. B, you can't put furniture in it. The point is that make sure that you're able to afford the property. And the way you do that first is make sure you have some emergency funds set to the side that aren't going to be used for a down payment and can come in handy if Murphy's Law comes knocking at your door. Number 11 is be careful trying to time the market per se. To try to get in and get out and jump in and jump out, be very careful about that. Doesn't always work out. Buy a property when you're ready to buy the property. Because what I found after 20 years of being involved in real estate, buying houses, buying rental houses, managing rental houses, and just being around real estate, is that no matter what time you decide to buy a property, there's always going to be deals out there. Sometimes the deals are going to be harder to find, and sometimes the deals are going to be very, very easy to find. Number 12 is a very important one you got to think about, and that is buy your home with a sale in mind. In other words, when you buy a property, you need to consider staying away from one-off properties, ones that are totally out of character, or ones that were custom built for one particular person. Because when it comes time to sell the property, you want to make sure the property is able to be sold and there's a demand for the property. You got to be careful with things like a tiny house or a container home that most people won't want. You got to be thinking about selling the property even when you purchase the property. And this is going to allow you to purchase a property that you know can be marketable when it comes time to sell it. Like I said earlier, you're going to sell the property. You're going to leave the property at some point. You want to be able to leave a property where there's some demand for that property, or put another way, somebody's going to want the property when you leave it. So all of these decisions in terms of location, what type of property, all of that stuff, it all boils down to, can you sell the property for premium price when you leave it? And if you can, it's probably a good property to actually purchase. So always think about the sale when you're making the purchase. Number 13 is use a good, solid realtor. Somebody that you trust, somebody that works hard, somebody that has been vetted by you. You don't have to go with the first realtor you see. Interview 2 or 3 or 4 of them and figure out which one is going to be the right fit for you. I know a lot of people that try to do this thing on their own. It's difficult. A realtor has access to properties that you can't find online or you can't get to. So utilize the realtor because they have a lot of expertise and experience in the areas and in the locations that you're looking to buy. And they're just going to give you another perspective and other things to think about. And they're going to do some of this legwork and research for you. That's what they're there for. So utilize them. Don't try to go at this thing alone. Get you a good realtor. Number 14, be careful about falling in love with a home. Be able to walk away. Remember, you're going to do a little bit of negotiating, hopefully, on the home. Now, we know that there's been years here recently where a home would go on the market on Monday, and by Tuesday it's sold, and it's sold for $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 more than it was on the market for. There was bidding wars taking place. However, moving forward, that's a pretty rare thing. Moving forward, you're gonna be in a position where you can negotiate. So be willing to walk away from a home. Don't fall in love with a home. Be careful about that, because when you fall in love with a home, it'll force you to do things and make decisions that you don't want to make. So stay away from that. Number 15, be sure that you get a good, solid home inspection. Of course, it's something that you have to do. Just make sure you are aware of the home inspection. You understand all of the disclosures that are going to be presented to you by the seller. Make sure you know what's going on in terms of the condition of the home. Now, this is why I don't recommend you buy the first home you see, because you want to look at 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 different homes, because after a while, you're going to start picking up on things. You're going to learn things. You're going to be able to look at a roof and see if that roof looks like it has issues. You're going to be able to make sure the gutters are tilting down at a certain angle. You're also going to be able to look at the grading around the home to make sure that water's being drained off properly. I mean, you'll pick these type of things up, and you'll pick them up the more homes you actually look at. So be very careful. Don't consider buying the very first or second home you see. Take a look at several of them and get accustomed to the types of things that you need to be looking at on a home so that you can understand the whole process and all of the buzzwords and things that's going to come out in the inspection. You want to be familiar with that stuff. Number 16, commute time to work and school. Consider, and this is all going to be a part of the location, but consider the commute time from work to home, from school to home, whatever you're involved in. How much running around are you going to have to do? Is it an hour and a half away? Is it 15 minutes away? Those things, they look like they don't matter in the first 6 months, but 3 or 4 years later, after living in a home, that begins to matter more and more. So consider, and this is a part of location, but it's a little bit different, so I made it a separate one. Think about the location of the home in terms of commute time to most of the things that you're involved in. Number 17 is one that a lot of people don't really think about until that first summer day. So number 17 is think about what direction the home faces. Where is the sun going to be hitting in the afternoon? Where's the sun going to be hitting in the mornings? Small thing, but something to think about. When you buy a home, do you want the master bedroom where you're going to be spending a lot of time at? Do you want that really facing where the sun is going to be rising? If you're a late sleeper or you work late, or do you want it to be facing the sun because you get up at 5 o'clock every morning? Whatever it may be, just consider that. And there's ways to get around that. Small thing to think about, but something to consider. Number 18 is you always got to think about homeowner association dues and taxes and insurance. Those little extra things that you have to pay every year, they're going to come up. What are they? You got to be thinking about that in whatever specific area you plan to be in. Homeowner association dues, taxes, and insurance. They add up tremendously. So be thinking about those things when you're actually looking for a home. Number 19, I mentioned earlier about timing the market. However, I do want to give you this tip about buying a home. When you're buying a home, prices for homes are typically going to be lower in the deep into the winter months near Christmas. When you're talking about the month of the year when homes are their lowest price is December. Now, anytime around November or December, Thanksgiving or Christmas, those are times when you want to consider purchasing a house because you're typically going to get a little bit better deal during those months, especially December. So don't necessarily time the market, but the timing of when you actually plan to buy a home throughout the year, you can really affect the price of the home if you decide to buy a home at the very end of the year. Why December? Most people aren't trying to buy a home around Christmas. So Christmas, the holidays, is a really good time to buy. At that time, typically the demand goes down. When the demand goes down, the prices go down. Finally, number 20, don't be rushed. Take your time. For most of us, this is the largest purchase that we're going to make. When you get in a rush with money, a lot of times you make a bad decision. Take your time, go slow, learn as much as you can, and don't be rushed in the process. So those are my 20 things, 20 very important things you need to look for when buying a house. Again, if you got anything out of this video, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe, more videos like this to come. The best person to take care of the old you is the young you. Take care of yourself and take care of other people. Until the next video, peace.